I need to tell you something that will hurt. Right now, at this very moment, there is a woman, younger, less kind, less giving than you, who is receiving the devotion you deserve. And do you know what she's doing differently? She's doing less, much less. While you exhaust yourself being accommodating, pleasant, and endlessly nice, she sets boundaries. She says no. She walks away when she's not valued, and men pursue her with an intensity that would shock you. This is the bitter truth I must share with you today. And if you close this video now, if you turn away from what I'm about to reveal, you will continue down a path that ends in invisibility, in being taken for granted, in watching the man you desire build his life with someone who understood what you're about to learn. My name is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and for decades I have studied the deepest mysteries of the Zohar, the hidden wisdom that explains why the universe operates as it does, why human hearts respond the way they do, and why your niceness, your beautiful, generous, self-sacrificing niceness, has become the very thing that makes you disappear in a man's eyes. I have counseled countless women, and I have seen this pattern destroy relationships that should have flourished. I have watched good women become ghosts in their own lives because they believed that more giving would equal more receiving. It doesn't. It never has. And the Kabbalistic wisdom I carry knows exactly why. You wake up in the morning and your first thought is of others. How can I make his day easier? What can I do to show him I care? You text first. You apologize when you've done nothing wrong. You accommodate his schedule, his preferences, his moods. You've convinced yourself this is love. This is maturity. This is what a good woman does. You smile when you want to scream. You agree when you want to object. You say it's fine when nothing is fine. And deep inside, in that place you rarely acknowledge even to yourself, you're waiting. Waiting for him to notice your devotion. Waiting for him to match your effort. Waiting for him to choose you with the same intensity you've already chosen him. But he doesn't. And here's what terrifies me for you. While you're being nice, while you're being understanding, while you're being available and flexible and endlessly patient, his attention is drifting. Not to someone better than you. To someone who values herself more than you value yourself. Do you understand what I'm saying? The woman who will take your place won't be more beautiful, more accomplished, or more loving. She'll simply be more protective of her own energy, her own time, her own dignity. And that protection, that boundary, that willingness to walk away, that's what creates the magnetic pull you've been trying to manufacture through niceness. Let me be brutally honest with you right now, because time is running out. Every day you spend in this pattern of overgiving and under-receiving is a day you're training him to devalue you. You think you're showing love. He's learning that your presence has no cost, that your attention requires no effort, that your devotion is guaranteed regardless of how he treats you. And the male mind. I've studied it through Kabbalistic principles and through years of observation. The male mind assigns value based on what he must overcome to obtain something. When you make yourself completely available, completely nice, completely accommodating, you've removed all obstacles. And without obstacles, there is no pursuit. Without pursuit, there is no desire. Without desire, you become invisible. Are you hearing me? You become invisible. Not because you're not enough, but because you're too much of the wrong thing. You're offering sunshine when what creates attraction is the interplay of light and shadow, presence and absence, yes and no. The Zohar teaches us about Tzimtzum, the divine contraction that made creation possible. God had to withdraw, had to create space, had to establish boundaries for the universe to exist. And you, beloved woman, must do the same in your relationships. Your niceness is like light that never stops. It blinds rather than illuminates. It overwhelms rather than attracts. But here's what keeps me up at night, what makes me speak to you with such urgency. I've seen what happens next. I've watched it unfold too many times. You continue being nice, continue overgiving, continue erasing your own needs. And one day, maybe in 3 months, maybe in a year, he meets someone who challenges him, someone who doesn't respond to his texts immediately, someone who has plans that don't include him, someone who disagrees with him, pushes back, makes him work for her attention. And suddenly, he comes alive. The effort you couldn't inspire through devotion, she inspires through distance. The commitment you couldn't secure through niceness, she secures through standards. And you're left asking yourself, what does she have that I don't? The answer is devastating in its simplicity. She has boundaries. She has self-respect that isn't negotiable. She has a life that doesn't revolve around his validation. And while you were being nice, while you were being the cool girl, who doesn't ask for much, who doesn't create problems, who doesn't have needs, she was being real. Real with her expectations, real with her emotions, real with her willingness to walk away from anything that doesn't serve her highest good. That's what you're competing against. Not another woman's beauty or youth or charm. You're competing against another woman's self-worth. And right now, today, if you don't change this pattern, you're losing that competition. Let me paint you a picture of where this ends if you don't listen to what I'm about to teach you. 2 years from now, you're scrolling through social media and you see him. He's engaged, or married, or in a relationship that's clearly thriving. The woman in the photos isn't more attractive than you. She's not more interesting. She's not kinder or more loving. But she's there. She's chosen. She's celebrating the commitment you wanted. And you'll remember all those times you were nice when you should have been honest. All those times you were available when you should have been busy. All those times you said yes when your soul was screaming no. And the regret, oh, the regret will be crushing. Because you'll realize that you taught him how to lose you through the very methods you thought would make him keep you. This is not theoretical. This is not something that happens to other women. This is happening to you, right now, in real time. Every interaction where you prioritize his comfort over your truth. You're writing the story of your own disappearance. Every moment you swallow your authentic response to give him what you think he wants. You're becoming less visible, less desirable, less essential to his life. And the cruelest part? You're doing this to yourself. He's not asking you to be this way. Society taught you. Your mother perhaps modeled it. Romance films sold you this lie. But now you know better. Or at least, you're about to. The Kabbalistic tradition speaks of vessels and light. You are a vessel, designed to receive divine abundance, love, connection, devotion. But a vessel that has no boundaries, no structure, no definition. It cannot hold anything. The light pours in and immediately spills out. Your niceness has turned you into a vessel without walls. Everything flows through you, but nothing stays with you. The love you give disappears into the void. The effort you expend returns nothing. And you wonder why you feel empty despite giving so much. It's because you never learned to contain, to hold, to protect what's precious. You never learned that saying no is what makes your yes meaningful, that absence is what makes presence valuable, that difficulty is what makes easy moments treasured. But it gets worse. And I need you to stay with me here, because this next part is where most women abandon hope. And I need you to transform that despair into determination. Not only is he not pursuing you now, he's losing respect for you. The psychological dynamic in a man's mind is clear. What comes easily has less value. When you're always available, always agreeable, always nice, his subconscious registers you as low priority. Not because you are low priority in objective reality, but because humans, especially men, are wired to pursue what retreats and to retreat from what pursues. You've reversed the polarity. You're chasing. And the more you chase through niceness and accommodation, the faster he runs, even if he's standing still. I've counseled women who gave everything, their time, their resources, their emotional energy, their flexibility, and received crumbs in return. Women who waited years for a proposal that never came. Women who accepted disrespect disguised as honesty. Women who convinced themselves that if they could just be patient enough, nice enough, understanding enough, he would finally see their worth. And you know what happened? He left. Or he stayed but checked out emotionally. Or worst of all, he kept them in a state of perpetual almost. Almost committed, almost sure, almost ready, while they wasted their precious years being nice to someone who was deciding if they were worth choosing. Do you know what you're really afraid of? You're afraid that if you're not nice, if you establish boundaries, if you stop overgiving, he'll leave. So you stay small, stay accommodating, stay nice. But here's the truth that will set you free. If enforcing your boundaries makes him leave, he was never yours to keep. You were just convenient. You were just easy. You were just there. And is that what you want? To be someone's convenient option? Someone's easy choice because demanding more would require him to go elsewhere? No. You want to be someone's absolute necessity. Someone's clear choice. Someone whose absence would create unbearable void in his life. And you cannot become that person through niceness. You become that person through value. Value that you establish, protect, and refuse to compromise. Let me tell you what's happening in his mind when you're being so nice. He's not thinking, wow, she's so amazing, so generous, so loving. He's thinking nothing. You've become part of the landscape, part of the expected environment. Like air, essential but unnoticed until it's gone. Your niceness has made you ambient. Background noise, something he assumes will always be there. And when you assume something will always be there, you don't cherish it, you don't pursue it, you don't fight to keep it. You take it for granted. That's what your niceness has accomplished. You've become granted, not earned. But here's where it becomes truly dangerous, where the urgency I feel for you intensifies. There's a window closing. You're at an age where you might think you have less leverage, less time, less opportunity to be selective. And that fear is making you more nice, more accommodating, more willing to accept less than you deserve. You're thinking, I should be grateful someone wants me at all. And that thought process is creating a desperation that men can smell from miles away. Desperation wrapped in niceness is still desperation. And desperation is the opposite of attraction. It repels. It suffocates. It makes a man want to run even if he can't articulate why. The women in your age group who are thriving in relationships, who have men pursuing them, devoted to them, fighting to keep them. They're not nicer than you. They're not prettier or younger or more accomplished. They have something else entirely. They have non-negotiable standards. They have a relationship with themselves that's so solid, so complete, that a man's presence enhances their life, but doesn't define it. They've stopped auditioning for love and started selecting it. They've stopped proving their worth and started requiring that others prove theirs. That shift, that fundamental reorientation from seeking approval to granting access, that's what changes everything. And I'm going to teach you exactly how to make that shift. But first, you must understand the full cost of continuing on your current path. Because knowing what you'll lose is what creates the motivation to change. If you continue being nice in the way you've been nice, here's what your future looks like. You'll attract men who are takers, men who are users, men who are looking for a mother, a therapist, a servant, not a partner. They'll sense your willingness to overgive, and they'll exploit it. Not necessarily consciously, not necessarily maliciously, but they'll take what you offer. And you'll find yourself in relationships where you're doing all the emotional labor, all the planning, all the compromising, all the sacrificing. And you'll tell yourself you're being loving, being mature, being the bigger person. But really, you're being depleted, used up, drained. And one day you'll wake up and realize you've become a shell of who you were. And the man lying next to you barely knows you because you've never shown him your real self. You've only shown him your nice self. Or worse, you'll be alone. You'll be single and wondering why the men you want don't want you back. Why they text occasionally but never commit. Why they enjoy your company but never prioritize you. Why they take from you but never invest in you. And you'll watch other women who are demanding, complex, challenging, receive the devotion you crave. And the unfairness of it will eat at you. I'm so much kinder than her. I would treat him so much better. I'm so much more understanding. But kindness without boundaries isn't kindness. It's self-abandonment. And men don't fall in love with women who abandon themselves. They fall in love with women who know their value and require that others recognize it too. The Zohar speaks of the shattering of vessels, Shevirat HaKalim. In the creation of the world, vessels were formed to hold divine light, but some shattered because they couldn't contain the intensity. You are shattering yourself through niceness. The divine light that you are, the magnificent soul you carry, the love you're capable of. It's pouring out through cracks you've created by having no boundaries, no structure, no protective walls. And what's left? Shards, fragments. A woman who gives and gives and gives, but has nothing left for herself. Reconstruction begins with containment, with learning to hold your own light, with understanding that your value doesn't come from what you give others, but from who you are in your essence. Now, are you ready? Are you ready to hear what you must do to reverse this pattern, to become visible again, to become desirable again, to become chosen? Because what I'm about to share isn't comfortable. It requires you to act against every instinct your conditioning has created. It requires you to embrace discomfort in the short term for transformation in the long term. It requires courage. But you have that courage, or you wouldn't still be listening. First, you must grieve. Grieve the time you've lost being nice to people who didn't deserve it. Grieve the relationships that failed because you made yourself too available. Grieve the woman you could have been if you'd protected your energy from the beginning. This grief is necessary. You cannot transform what you haven't acknowledged. Sit with the sadness. Feel the anger at yourself, at the world, at the men who took advantage. Feel it fully, and then release it. Because holding on to that pain while you're trying to change will only sabotage your efforts. The grief cleanses. Let it do its work. Second, you must establish what I call sacred boundaries. These aren't walls meant to keep people out. They're definitions of what you will accept and what you will not accept in your life. And this is where most women fail. They think boundaries are mean, are unkind, are selfish. No. Boundaries are acts of self-love. They're announcements of your value. They're invitations for others to treat you well or remove themselves from your life. What are your sacred boundaries? Write them down. What behaviors will you no longer tolerate? What treatment is beneath your standard? What actions constitute automatic disqualification from your time and energy? Be specific. Be ruthless. Be unwavering. And here's the key that most teachings on boundaries miss. You don't explain them. You don't justify them. You don't apologize for them. You simply enforce them. When someone crosses a boundary, there's an immediate consequence. Not a punishment, but a natural result. They get less of you, or none of you. This is where your niceness has destroyed you in the past. Someone mistreats you, and you explain how it hurt you. You give them another chance. You're nice about setting the boundary. No more. Boundaries without consequences are suggestions. And men don't respect suggestions. They respect certainties. Third, and this is crucial, you must develop what I call strategic unavailability. For the next 30 days minimum, you are busy. Not fake busy, but genuinely engaged in your own life. You pick up hobbies you've neglected. You spend time with friends. You invest in your appearance, not to attract men, but to honor yourself. You read. You create. You explore. You grow. And when a man reaches out, you're not immediately available. Not because you're playing games, but because you actually have a life that matters to you. You respond when it's convenient for you, not when he demands attention. You make plans when your schedule allows, not by rearranging everything to accommodate him. Do you understand the power shift that happens with this one change? Suddenly, your time has value. Suddenly, access to you is a privilege, not a given. Suddenly, he consider your schedule, your priorities, your life. And this does something psychological to a man. It makes him think about you more. When you were always available, you were never on his mind because you were never a challenge. Now, he's wondering what you're doing, who you're with, whether you're losing interest. That wondering, that slight anxiety, that uncertainty, it reignites attraction. It creates pursuit. It makes you visible again. Fourth, and this is where the Kabbalistic wisdom becomes intensely practical, you must master the art of selective vulnerability. Niceness is often a shield, a way to avoid authentic connection because authentic connection is risky. You've been nice to avoid conflict, to avoid rejection, to avoid being truly seen. But intimacy requires vulnerability. Not with everyone, that's emotional promiscuity, but with someone who has earned it through consistent respect, effort, and investment. So you practice being real. When something bothers you, you say so. Not aggressively, not passive-aggressively, but directly and calmly. When you disagree, you express it. When you're hurt, you name it. When you need something, you ask for it. And here's what happens that will shock you. The right man won't run. The right man will respect you more. He'll see your strength. He'll understand that you're not a doormat, but a woman of substance who requires real connection, not surface pleasantries. The wrong man will indeed leave or pull back. And you'll be tempted to return to niceness to reel him back in. Don't. His departure is the boundary enforcing itself. He failed the test of being worthy of your authentic self. Let him go. Make space for someone who can handle the real you. Fifth, you must understand and implement the principle of reciprocity. From this moment forward, you match energy. If he texts you paragraphs, you respond with paragraphs. If he texts you one word, you respond with one word, or you don't respond at all. If he makes plans a week in advance, you do the same. If he reaches out last minute, you're not available. If he invests emotionally, you invest emotionally. If he's distant, you become distant. This isn't game playing. This is self-protection and reality testing. You're allowing the relationship to find its natural equilibrium instead of artificially inflating it with your overfunctioning. And here's what you'll discover. Most of your past relationships were 80% your effort and 20% his. When you stop overfunctioning, the relationship either dies or he steps up. Either outcome is valuable information. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Rabbi Shimon, what if I do all this and he still doesn't pursue me? What if I lose him by not being nice? And this is where you must embrace a truth that will transform your entire life. Losing someone who only wanted your niceness is not a loss. It's liberation. You don't want a man who's only interested in what you can do for him. How accommodating you can be, how much you'll tolerate. You want a man who's fascinated by who you are, your mind, your strength, your complexity, your standards. And that man doesn't respond to niceness. He responds to challenge, to substance, to a woman who knows her worth. Let me share with you a moment from my own life that illustrates this principle. There was a period when I was young, before my spiritual awakening deepened, when I sought the approval of religious authorities. I was nice to everyone, accommodating to all perspectives, careful never to offend. And do you know what happened? I was ignored. My teachings fell on deaf ears. My presence was unremarkable. It wasn't until I stopped seeking approval and started speaking truth, uncomfortable truth, challenging truth, truth that sometimes angered people, that my words gained power, that people began to listen, that my teachings spread. The same dynamic applies in love. Niceness makes you forgettable. Truth makes you unforgettable. Here's your sixth transformation. Embrace feminine polarity. The Kabbalah teaches that creation emerges from the interplay of masculine and feminine energies. Masculine energy pursues, protects, provides. Feminine energy receives, responds, radiates. When you're being overly nice, always initiating, always pursuing, always accommodating, you're operating in masculine energy. And masculine energy pursuing masculine energy creates no attraction. It creates competition or indifference. You must return to your feminine power, which paradoxically feels like doing less. You stop initiating contact and start responding. You stop planning everything and start accepting or declining what he offers. You stop managing his emotions and start expressing yours. You become the responder to his pursuit, not the pursuer hoping for response. This doesn't mean you're passive. Feminine energy is not passive. It's powerfully receptive. It's a magnet, not a chaser. It draws toward itself rather than running after. And when you embody this energy, something remarkable happens in a man's psyche. He feels like a man. He feels purposeful. He feels needed not for what he can give you materially, but for his presence, his strength, his pursuit. And this feeling, the feeling of being needed as a man, is what creates deep, lasting devotion in masculine hearts. Your niceness was actually robbing him of the opportunity to feel needed because you needed nothing. You handled everything. You were endlessly self-sufficient in your accommodation. Seventh, practice sacred selfishness. I call it sacred because it's not the destructive narcissism that harms others. It's the essential self-regard that allows you to show up whole in your relationships. Sacred selfishness means your needs matter, your preferences matter, your time matters, your energy matters, your happiness matters. And when decisions need to be made, you consider yourself first. Not exclusively, you're not becoming cruel, but primarily. Will this serve my highest good? Will this honor my values? Will this move me toward the life I want? If the answer is no, you don't do it, regardless of how nice it would be, how much someone else wants it, how much easier it would make things for others. Watch what happens when you practice sacred selfishness. The takers in your life disappear. The users move on. The men who were only interested in what they could extract from you vanish. And initially, this feels lonely. This feels like confirmation of your fear that if you're not nice, you'll be alone. But stay the course, because what comes next is the arrival of different men. Men who are attracted to your self-possession. Men who respect your boundaries because they have boundaries. Men who want to add to your already full life rather than consume your empty one. These are the men worth your time. These are the men who create partnerships, not parasitic relationships. Eighth, learn the language of number 2 letters. One word, the most powerful word in your vocabulary for creating the life you want. And you've been terrified of it. Terrified that no will make you unlovable, will make you difficult, will make you alone. But the truth is this: your inability to say no is what's making you alone. Because you're surrounded by people and in relationships that drain you, diminish you, disrespect you. And you're too nice to end them. So you're alone even when you're with someone. Alone with your real feelings, your real needs, your real self. Saying no is how you clear space for yes. No to last-minute plans creates space for yes to intentional dates. No to disrespect creates space for yes to honoring treatment. No to mediocre creates space for yes to extraordinary. Practice saying no this week. Start small if you must. No, that time doesn't work for me. No, I'm not comfortable with that. No, I have other plans. Don't explain. Don't apologize. Don't soften it with maybe later, unless you mean it. Just no. And witness the liberation that comes. Witness the respect that emerges. Witness how the people worth keeping actually appreciate your honesty, while the people you needed to release become offended and leave. That sorting process is the boundary doing its sacred work. Now, let's address what you're really here for. How do you become visible to men again? How do you create desire in a specific man or attract a new man who will cherish you? You do it through mystery. The Kabbalah speaks of Ein Sof, the infinite, unknowable aspect of the divine. You must cultivate your own Ein Sof, your own unknowable depths. Stop revealing everything. Stop explaining your entire emotional process. Stop being completely predictable in your niceness. Become someone who has layers, depths, contradictions. Someone who surprises him. Someone who sometimes says yes and sometimes says no, and he can't quite predict which. Someone who has thoughts and opinions that don't always align with his. Someone who has a rich inner life that he only gets glimpses of when he's earned the privilege of deeper access. Mystery is not deception. Mystery is simply not performing your entire self for someone's approval. It's maintaining your own counsel. It's having parts of your life that don't include him. It's being happy without him and even happier with him when he's present and engaged. Men are hunters by psychological design. They pursue what they don't fully have, what they haven't completely figured out, what maintains an element of challenge. When you're completely nice, completely open, completely available, you're a completed puzzle. And completed puzzles get put on the shelf. Ongoing mysteries get daily attention. Here's your 10th transformation, and this one requires courage. Become willing to walk away. Not as a manipulation, not as a threat, but as a genuine comfort with being alone rather than being disrespected. The women who have power in relationships are the women who mean it when they set a boundary. And men can sense the difference between a boundary that's a bluff and a boundary that's a line in the sand. When you're willing to walk away, when you've done the internal work to know that you'll survive and even thrive without him, something happens to the energy between you. He feels it. He senses that his access to you is conditional on how he treats you. And if he's a man of substance, if he's capable of real love, he'll rise to meet your standard. If he's not, he'll leave. And either way, you win. Too many women are in relationships as prisoners of their own inability to leave. They're being mistreated, undervalued, taken for granted. But they stay because they're terrified of being alone, of starting over, of being unlovable. And that fear creates a stench that repels attraction. You must do the work to become genuinely okay with being single, not pretending to be okay, not trying to convince yourself. Actually okay. Therapy helps. Spiritual practice helps. Building a life you love helps. Having friends and hobbies and purposes that fulfill you helps. And when you're genuinely okay alone, when a man is an addition to your joy rather than the source of it, you become magnetic. Because now you're choosing him, not needing him. And choice is attractive in a way that need never will be. Let me tell you what will happen when you implement these teachings. At first, things will feel worse. The men in your life who were benefiting from your niceness will push back. They'll call you difficult, selfish, changed. They'll try to guilt you back into your old patterns. You used to be so understanding. What happened to you? This is a test. This is them trying to reestablish the old dynamic where they took and you gave. Don't fall for it. Hold your boundaries. Let them be uncomfortable with the new you. The right people will adjust and respect you. The wrong people will leave. Both outcomes serve you. You might also experience internal resistance, that voice that says, "Who do you think you are to have standards? You should be grateful anyone wants you. You're too old, too difficult, too much." That's the voice of your conditioning, of societal programming, of every message you've absorbed that told you women should be nice at the expense of their own well-being. You must recognize that voice for the lie it is. You are not too much. You have never been too much. You have been too much for the wrong people and not enough for yourself. That changes now. 11th, cultivate your own desire. Stop focusing exclusively on whether he desires you and start asking, do I desire him? Is he meeting my standards? Is he adding value to my life? Is he someone I'm choosing or just someone who's available? Your niceness has often manifested as accepting anyone who shows interest, because you're so focused on being chosen that you forgot you're also choosing. Start evaluating men critically. Does his character match his words? Do his actions reflect his proclaimed feelings? Is he consistent? Is he respectful? Is he generous not just financially, but emotionally? Is he curious about you? Is he growing? Is he someone you admire? If not, why are you considering him? This shift from "does he want me" to "do I want him" changes your entire energetic presence. You stop auditioning and start assessing. You stop performing niceness and start requiring excellence. And men feel this shift. The ones who are looking for easy supply move on. The ones who want a real partnership lean in. You're sorting, constantly sorting for quality. And quality recognizes quality. When you elevate your standards, you begin attracting men who meet them. 12th, embrace your anger. I can feel it in you, this suppressed rage. Rage at how you've been treated. Rage at how you've treated yourself. Rage at the unfairness of it all. And you've been taught that anger is unspiritual, unfeminine, unattractive. So you've compressed it into niceness, into accommodation, into passive acceptance. No more. Your anger is information. Your anger is energy. Your anger is fuel for change. Feel it. Express it in healthy ways, through movement, through writing, through fierce conversation with trusted friends. Let it burn away the patterns that no longer serve you. Let it forge you into someone who refuses to accept less than she deserves. The Zohar speaks of Gevura, strength, boundary, judgment. It's one of the primary sephirot, the divine emanations. It's not cruel. It's discerning. It says, this is acceptable and this is not. You need Gevura in your life. You've been all chest, kindness, flow, giving. Beautiful but unbalanced. Chesed without Gevura becomes boundaryless giving that depletes rather than sustains. You must integrate both. Kind to those who deserve it. Firm boundaries with those who don't. Generous where it's appreciated. Withholding where it's taken for granted. This is balance. This is wisdom. This is what creates sustainable love. 13th, develop outcome independence. This is the most advanced teaching, the one that takes the most internal work. Outcome independence means you release your attachment to any specific result. You want him to commit? Wonderful. You're willing to walk if he doesn't? Also wonderful. You hope this relationship works? Beautiful. You'll be fine if it doesn't? Also beautiful. You're bringing your best self, setting your boundaries, expressing your authentic truth, and you're surrendering the outcome. Not because you don't care, but because you trust that what's meant for you won't miss you, and what's not meant for you would only bring suffering if you forced it. This creates tremendous freedom. You stop manipulating, strategizing, controlling. You stop obsessing over every text, every tone, every interaction. You show up, you're real, you have standards, and you let life unfold. This energy, this relaxed, confident, non-attached energy, is profoundly attractive because it communicates that you're not desperate, not needy, not trying to force anything. You're offering connection, and if it's received beautifully, wonderful. If not, you're still whole. Men sense this, and it intrigues them. It challenges them. It makes them want to be chosen by you because you're clearly someone who chooses carefully. Here's a practice for developing outcome independence. Every morning, before you do anything else, sit quietly and remind yourself of these truths. I am complete as I am. A relationship enhances my life. It doesn't define it. I will not compromise my values or boundaries for anyone's affection. I trust that what's meant for me is coming. I release my grip on outcomes and embrace the present moment. Say this like a prayer, like a meditation, until it seeps into your bones. Until you believe it, not just intellectually, but cellularly. 14th, master the art of pleasant surprise. This is different from being nice. Being nice is predictable, expected, taken for granted. A pleasant surprise is unexpected, delightful, memorable. You're not constantly giving, so when you do give, a thoughtful gift, a kind gesture, a moment of tenderness, it lands with impact. It means something. He doesn't expect it, so he appreciates it. This is the difference between being a fountain that never stops flowing and being a spring that offers water when approached with respect. The fountain is ignored. The spring is valued. So you stop doing all the little things you've been doing to be nice. You stop sending good morning texts first. You stop checking in constantly. You stop planning all the dates. You stop managing his emotional life. And into that space, occasionally, you put something genuinely thoughtful. Not because you're trying to win him, but because you feel moved to offer something. And the contrast makes it powerful. She doesn't usually do this, so when she does, it matters. This is strategic in the most authentic sense. You're allowing your actions to have meaning by not diluting them with constant overgiving. 15th, study men. Don't judge them. Here's uncomfortable truth. Men are different from women in how they process emotion, how they bond, how they experience attraction. And your niceness has often been an attempt to relate to men as if they're women, as if what you want in relationships is what they want. It's not. Men bond through action, through challenge overcome together, through respect earned. They don't bond through endless talking about feelings the way women do. They don't process emotion the way women do. They don't experience attraction the way women do. When you understand this, not to manipulate but to genuinely comprehend, you can interact with men in ways that actually reach them rather than ways that feel good to you, but leave them cold. For instance, a man will feel more connected to you after you've worked on a project together than after hours of emotional conversation. A man will feel more attracted to you when you've challenged him and he's risen to meet it than when you've accommodated every request. A man will feel more devoted to you when he's had to pursue you than when you've made it effortless. These aren't manipulations to deploy. They're realities to understand. And when you understand them, you stop taking his behavior personally. You stop being nice in ways that don't land. You start being real in ways that create genuine connection. 16th, create a vision for your life that doesn't require a man. This is essential. If your entire vision for happiness revolves around being in a relationship, you will always be desperate, always be willing to accept less, always be too nice because you're terrified of losing the key to your happiness. But when you have a compelling vision for your life, dreams you're pursuing, goals that excite you, a purpose that fulfills you, adventures you're planning, then a relationship becomes something that enhances that vision rather than something that is the vision. This shift makes you infinitely more attractive because you're a complete person inviting someone into your fullness rather than a half person looking for someone to complete you. What is your vision? If you don't have one, this is your assignment. Create it. Write it down. Make it specific. Make it exciting. Make it independent of anyone else's participation. What do you want to learn? Where do you want to travel? What do you want to create? How do you want to serve? Who do you want to become? When you're actively pursuing this vision, when you're building this life, you won't have time to be overly nice to men who don't deserve it. You'll be too busy becoming the woman you were meant to be. 17th, understand that love is not sacrifice. You've believed that love means giving up yourself, your needs, your preferences for another person. And yes, compromise exists in relationships. But real love doesn't require self-abandonment. Real love celebrates both people. Real love involves two complete individuals choosing to share life while maintaining their wholeness. Your niceness has been self-abandonment disguised as love. And the men who accepted it weren't loving you. They were loving your service to them. That's not the love you want. That's not the love you deserve. The love you deserve involves a man who wants to know your real thoughts, even when they differ from his. Who wants to hear about your day, your dreams, your fears. Who makes space for your needs as automatically as you make space for his? Who gets excited when you set boundaries because it means you're someone of substance, not someone who'll bend to any wind? Who pursues you not because you're easy, but because you're worth the effort? This kind of love only comes to women who stop abandoning themselves, who stop being nice and start being real. As we move deeper into these teachings, I want you to feel something shifting in you. That old identity, the nice girl, the accommodating woman, the people pleaser, she's dying, and death is always painful. You might grieve her. You might feel guilty for leaving her behind. But she was never your true self. She was a survival mechanism, a costume you wore to navigate a world that told you your value lay in how little you demanded and how much you gave. But that world lied. Your value is inherent. Your value is in your very existence. You don't need to earn love through niceness. You need to recognize that you're worthy of love simply because you exist. 18th, practice decisive action. Niceness is often indecisiveness disguised as flexibility. Whatever you want. I don't mind. You decide. This seems accommodating, but it's actually abdication. You're refusing to take up space, to have preferences, to lead in any direction. And this creates a subtle contempt in masculine energy. Not because men want to dominate, but because they want to be with someone who knows herself, who has opinions, who participates actively in creating the relationship rather than passively accepting whatever shape he gives it. Start making decisions, small ones at first. I want to go to this restaurant. I prefer that movie. I'm choosing this activity. Don't ask permission. Don't seek validation. Just decide. And if he doesn't like your decision, he can speak up and you can negotiate as equals. But you've established that you take up space, that you have preferences, that you're an active participant. This might feel aggressive to you at first. It's not aggressive, it's assertive. It's the difference between bulldozing someone's will and simply expressing your own. You've lived so long without expressing your will that having any feels extreme. It's not. It's normal. It's healthy. It's required for a balanced relationship. 19th, stop apologizing. Track how often you say, "I'm sorry" in a day. I'd wager it's dozens of times for things that don't require apology. Sorry to bother you. Sorry, can I ask a question? Sorry for taking up your time. Every unnecessary apology diminishes you. It communicates that your existence is an imposition, that your needs are burdensome, that you're expecting to be rejected. Stop. Save apologies for when you've actually done something wrong. For everything else, simply communicate. I have a question. I'd like your time for this. I need to tell you something. No apology. Just clear, direct communication. Watch what happens when you stop apologizing unnecessarily. You stand taller. You feel more confident. And others treat you with more respect. Because you're no longer signaling that you expect to be dismissed. You're signaling that you have every right to exist, to speak, to need, to want. This is what it means to stop being invisible. Invisible women apologize for existing. Visible women occupy space unapologetically. 20th, cultivate multiple sources of validation. Your niceness has often been a bid for validation from men. If I'm nice enough, he'll choose me, and that will mean I'm worthy. But this makes any man's opinion of you devastatingly powerful. When his attention determines your worth, you'll accept anything to keep that attention. You must diversify your sources of validation. Your work, your friendships, your creative expressions, your spiritual practice, your body's strength, your mind's growth. All of these should contribute to your sense of worth. And when they do, When your worth comes from multiple sources, including yourself, then losing one man's attention becomes disappointing, but not devastating. You remain whole. You remain valuable. And that stability is attractive. I'm going to share something with you that might sting. The neediness you felt, the desperation for a man's love, often comes not from loving him too much, but from loving yourself too little. You've been looking for him to give you what you've never given yourself. Acceptance, appreciation, validation, love. And no man can fill that void. No relationship can complete you. That's your work. That's your spiritual assignment. Love yourself first, not in a narcissistic way, but in a deep, abiding, unconditional way. Treat yourself the way you've been treating men, with patience, with kindness, with generosity, with grace, and watch how everything changes when you do. 21st, learn to speak your desire, not your neediness, not your desperation, your genuine desire. I desire to be in a committed relationship. I desire exclusivity. I desire a partner who... There's power in clearly stated desire. It's not demanding. It's declaring. You're making known what you want so that the men in your orbit can decide if they can meet it. The ones who can't will leave. Perfect. They weren't for you anyway. The ones who can will step up. Also perfect. This is how you find alignment. Through clarity, not through niceness that obscures your real wants. So, many women hide their desires, thinking that if they don't ask for much, they'll be easier to love. But you cannot build a fulfilling relationship on hidden desires. You'll always be settling, always be unsatisfied, always be resentful. Speak your desires early. Not on the first date, but early enough that you're not invested in someone who fundamentally can't give you what you need. I'm looking for something serious that leads to marriage. I need someone who communicates regularly. I value someone who... These statements filter. They're supposed to. Better to be alone and available for the right person than nicely accommodating the wrong person. As we approach the culmination of this teaching, I want you to understand that everything I've shared is not about becoming cold, not about becoming manipulative, not about playing games. It's about becoming real, the realest version of yourself, the version that knows her worth, states her needs, sets her boundaries, and chooses carefully. That woman, authentic, boundaried, self-valuing, is infinitely more attractive than the nice girl you've been playing. Because that woman is rare. Most women are still trapped in niceness, still overgiving, still making themselves invisible. You're choosing a different path. You're choosing to be seen. And yes, it's terrifying. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it requires unlearning decades of conditioning. But it's the only path to the love you actually want. 22nd, embrace paradox. You can be kind and have boundaries. You can be loving and require respect. You can be generous and protective of your energy. You can desire connection and be willing to be alone. These aren't contradictions, they're integration. Mature love holds paradox. It's soft and strong. It's open and discerning. It's vulnerable and boundaried. You don't have to choose between being a good person and being valued. You can be both. In fact, you must be both. The Kabbalah is built on paradoxes. The infinite that became finite. The light that created darkness so it could be distinguished. The vessel that must limit itself to receive. You are that paradox. Unlimited love that must create boundaries to experience itself fully. Embrace this. Stop thinking in binaries, either nice or mean, either giving or selfish, either accommodating or difficult. You're both and. You're complex, you're multifaceted, and the right man will be fascinated by your complexity rather than confused by it. 23rd, honor your intuition. You've overridden your intuition so many times to be nice. You felt uncomfortable but stayed. You sensed disrespect but excused it. You knew something was off but gave another chance. Your intuition has been screaming at you, and you've been drowning it out with niceness, with rationalization, with maybe I'm too sensitive, and maybe I'm expecting too much. No more. Your intuition is your divine connection. It's how your soul communicates with your conscious mind. When something feels wrong, it is wrong for you. Trust that. Act on that, even if you can't articulate why, even if it seems unfair to the other person. Your intuition is protecting you from situations that would harm you. Honor it. Start rebuilding your relationship with your intuition by listening to it in small decisions. Does this restaurant feel right? Does this conversation feel good? Does this person's energy feel safe? Notice the signals your body gives you. Tension means no. Ease means yes. Confusion means wait. When you practice listening in small matters, you rebuild the trust so that you can hear your intuition in big matters. And when it tells you a man isn't right for you, even if he looks perfect on paper, even if you're lonely, even if you're scared you won't find better, you'll trust it enough to walk away. 24th, create consequences, not ultimatums. An ultimatum is, do this or I'm leaving. It's a threat, often empty, that creates resentment. A consequence is, when you do this, I will do this. It's a clear boundary with a natural result. When you speak to me disrespectfully, I end the conversation. When you cancel plans last minute, I'm not available next time you ask. When you don't communicate for days, I assume you're not interested and move on. These aren't threats. These are you protecting yourself from treatment you won't accept. And you enforce them consistently. No second chances for the same behavior, no explanations, no negotiations. The boundary was clear, it was crossed. Here's the consequence. Men respect consequences. They don't respect repeated warnings with no follow-through. Your niceness has manifested as all warning, no action. You've said, "This bothers me," 10 times while continuing to accept it. He's learned your boundaries are flexible, negotiable, ultimately meaningless. That changes now. You state a boundary once, clearly. You enforce it the first time it's crossed, and you never go back on that enforcement. This is how you train the people in your life to treat you well, not through repeated expressions of hurt, but through consistent consequences for behavior that crosses your lines. 25th, develop your erotic self. I'm speaking now of eros in the broad sense. Your life force, your vitality, your passion, your aliveness. Your niceness has often been a dampening of this energy. You've made yourself smaller, quieter, less vibrant to be more palatable. But a woman in touch with her erotic self, her full aliveness, is magnetic. She moves through the world with presence. She speaks with conviction. She laughs fully. She expresses desire. She takes up space. She's connected to her body, to pleasure, to the sensual experience of being alive. How do you develop this? Through practices that connect you to your body and your senses. Dance, even if you're alone in your room. Wear clothes that make you feel powerful. Move your body in ways that feel good. Eat food that delights you. Touch textures that please you. Listen to music that moves you. Immerse yourself in beauty. This isn't frivolous. This is soul care. And when you're connected to your eros, to your aliveness, You emanate an energy that draws people to you. Men can sense a woman who's comfortable in her body, who's connected to pleasure, who's fully alive. That's attraction at its most primal level. And here's what this does. It makes your niceness, when you do express it, come from overflow rather than depletion. When you're full of life, full of joy, full of your own energy, then giving to others is a natural overflow. It doesn't deplete you because you're constantly replenishing yourself. This is sustainable generosity. This is kindness that doesn't lead to resentment. But it requires that you prioritize your own filling first. You cannot pour from an empty cup, as the saying goes. So you fill yourself through rest, through pleasure, through creativity, through connection to something greater than yourself. We're in the final stretch now, and I want to speak directly to the fear I know is present in you. The fear that if you do all of this, you'll end up alone, that men will find you too much, too difficult, too demanding. And I'm going to tell you the hard truth. Some men will. Many men will. The men who want a nice girl who makes their life easy, who doesn't challenge them, who accepts whatever scraps they offer, those men will indeed disappear from your life. And you must let them go with gratitude because they're making space for different men. Men who want an equal partner. Men who are excited by a woman with standards. Men who want to rise to meet someone rather than coast with someone who demands nothing. The loneliness you fear, you're already experiencing it. You're lonely in relationships where you're not seen, not valued, not chosen with intention. You're lonely while being nice to men who don't appreciate it. That loneliness is worse than being single because it masquerades as connection while delivering isolation. At least when you're single and maintaining your standards, you're alone with integrity. You're alone with possibility. You're alone with the door open for real love rather than stuck in fake connection. 26th, practice self-loyalty. This is my final teaching, and perhaps the most important. Self-loyalty means that no matter what, you stay on your own side. You don't abandon yourself to please someone else. You don't betray your values to keep a relationship. You don't override your needs to be accommodating. You are your own most reliable advocate, defender, champion. This doesn't mean you're rigid or unwilling to compromise. It means that compromises come from a place of choice, not fear. I'm choosing to be flexible here because it serves us both and doesn't violate my core needs. Not, I have to accommodate or he'll leave. Self-loyalty shows up in small moments. He wants to see you tonight, but you're exhausted. Self-loyalty means you say you need rest. He's angry that you have plans with friends. Self-loyalty means you keep those plans. He wants you to tolerate behavior you've said isn't acceptable. Self-loyalty means you enforce the boundary, even if it costs you the relationship. Every time you choose yourself, you strengthen this muscle. Every time you abandon yourself, you weaken it. Which are you doing more often? Today, you commit to choosing yourself. Not selfishly, not cruelly, but consistently. I know this has been intense. I know I've asked you to dismantle beliefs you've held your entire life. I know I've challenged you to act in ways that feel uncomfortable, perhaps even wrong. But I need you to trust me. The path you've been on, the niceness you've been practicing, it's leading nowhere good. It's leading to invisibility, to being undervalued, to watching other women receive what you deserve. You know this. In your deepest heart, you know this is true. That's why you're still here. That's why you've listened this long. Some part of you recognizes that what I'm teaching is the key to everything you want. So let me tell you what happens when you implement these teachings. In the beginning, as I said, things might feel worse. There's an adjustment period. But after that initial discomfort, after you've held your boundaries through a few tests, after you've walked away from a few situations that didn't meet your standards, something shifts. You start to feel powerful. You start to feel worthy. You start to walk through the world differently. Your energy changes, and men notice. They sense that something's different about you. You're not chasing anymore. You're not overgiving anymore. You're not performing niceness anymore. You're just present, confident, clear about what you want, and unbothered by whether they can provide it. And some men will step up. Men you'd written off will suddenly get serious. Men who were taking you for granted will start pursuing. New men will appear. Men who are attracted to the real you, the boundaried you, the self-valuing you. And when this happens, you'll be tempted to slide back into old patterns. I've got him now. I can relax. I can be nice again. Don't. The work continues. The boundaries remain. The self-loyalty persists. Not as manipulation to keep him, but as your new way of being. This is who you are now. A woman who values herself. The relationship you build from this place will be different from anything you've experienced before. It will be based on mutual respect, not one-sided accommodation. It will involve two people choosing each other daily, not one person clinging while the other tolerates. It will be passionate because there's tension, mystery, ongoing pursuit. It will be stable because both people are whole individuals committed to partnership without self-abandonment. This is the love that's worth waiting for. This is the love that requires you to stop being nice and start being real. In the Zohar, there's a teaching about the tzaddik in the world. The tzaddik, the righteous person, doesn't adapt to the world's brokenness. The tzaddik maintains wholeness, and by doing so, elevates the world around them. You are called to be that tzaddik in your relationships. Don't adapt to men's lower standards. Don't accommodate their inability to meet you where you deserve to be met. Maintain your wholeness, hold your standards, and the right man will rise to meet you there. The wrong men will fall away, and you'll understand that this falling away is not rejection. It's protection. I want to leave you with this vision. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. You've implemented these teachings. You've stopped being nice and started being real. You've maintained your boundaries, even when it was hard. You've walked away from situations that didn't serve you. You've built a life you love that doesn't require a man to be complete. And you're in a relationship, either with someone new or with someone existing who rose to meet your new standards. And in that relationship, you're seen, you're valued, you're pursued, you're cherished, not because you're nice, but because you're you. The full, authentic, bounded, self-valuing you. How does that feel? That's not fantasy. That's available to you. That's on the other side of implementing what you've learned today. Or imagine this. You're single, but you're not lonely. You're not desperate. You're not settling. You're living fully, loving yourself, enjoying your life, and remaining open to love when it arrives in a form worthy of you. And because you're not in a draining relationship, because you're not giving to people who don't appreciate it, you have energy. You're vibrant. You're radiant. And when you do encounter someone who recognizes your worth, you'll be ready. You'll be whole. You'll be able to engage from a place of choice rather than need. This too is available to you. Both of these futures require the same thing, that you stop being so nice, that you start valuing yourself, that you maintain boundaries, that you become visible by refusing to disappear into accommodation. The choice is yours. The power is yours. It always has been. You've just been giving it away through niceness, through overgiving, through self-abandonment. Today, you take it back. Today, you commit to yourself the way you've been committing to unworthy men. Today, you become the woman you were always meant to be. Strong, boundaried, self-valuing, real. And when you do this, when you truly embody these teachings, you'll look back at this moment as the turning point. The moment you stopped making yourself small. The moment you stopped apologizing for existing. The moment you stopped being nice and started being powerful. That moment is now. The question is, will you seize it? Will you do the uncomfortable work of dismantling decades of conditioning? Will you hold your boundaries when everything in you wants to cave? Will you walk away from the wrong people to make space for the right ones? I believe you will. I believe you're ready. I believe that something in you knows that everything I've shared is true, even if it's painful to acknowledge. You've spent so long being nice, being small, being accommodating, and it hasn't worked. You know it hasn't worked. So today, you try something different. Today, you choose yourself. Today, you become visible. Today, you stop being so nice and start being everything you were meant to be. And I promise you, beloved woman, when you do this, when you really commit to this path, you'll wonder why you waited so long. You'll see that the love you wanted was always available, but only to the version of you willing to stop abandoning herself to chase it. This is my teaching. This is the wisdom of Kabbalah applied to your modern struggle. This is how you move from invisible to irresistible, from taken for granted to treasured, from nice to powerful. The path is clear. The choice is yours. And I am here in these words, supporting you in claiming the love and life you deserve. Stop being so nice. Start being magnificent. The world has been waiting for the real you. It's time she arrived.